Apollo is the Olympian god of light, music, and poetry, healing and plagues, prophecy and knowledge, order and beauty, archery and agriculture, the embodiment of the Hellenic idea of Kagathea. Definitely pronounced that wrong. He is harmony, reason, and moderation personified, a perfect blend of physical superiority and moral virtue. A complex deity who turns up in art and literature, possibly as often as Zeus himself. Apollo is the only major god who appears with the same name in both Greek and Roman mythology. The origin of the name Apollo is still not properly understood. Many Greeks seem to have supposed it stood for destroyer, but this is one of many suggestions. Redemptory, purifier, assembler, stony. Modern scholars disagree with most of them, with a majority linking Apollo's name to the Greek word apella, which means a sheepfold, which may suggest that Apollo was originally merely a protector of flocks and herds. However, in time, he evolved to become a multifaceted god adored all over Greece as the perfectly developed classical male nude and kouros. Beardless and athletically built, he is often depicted with a laurel crown on his head and either a bow and arrow or a lyre and pectium in his hands. The sacrificial tripod, representing his prophetic powers, was another common attribute of Apollo. Just as few animals linked with the god in various myths, the wolf, dolphin, python, mouse, deer, and swan. Apollo was in charge of so many things that naturally even more of his famous epithets are numerous. As a sun god, he is called Phoebus, or bright. As a prophet, the Greeks called him Lexius, or the one who speaks crookedly. As a god of music, he was known as the leader of the Muses. Finally, in the places of Apollo's birth and worship, adorned him with three more appellations: Delian, Delphidic, and Pythian. Apollo is the son of Zeus and Leto. As one of the numerous Zeus's lovers, his mother incurred the wrath of Hera, who sent the dragon Python to pursue Leto throughout all lands and forbade her to give birth anywhere on solid earth. No one would accept the pregnant Titaness, except for the island of Delos, where Leto first delivered Artemis while balancing her body on an olive branch. Afterwards, Artemis helped her mother deliver Apollo as well. Fed exclusively on nectar and ambrosia, and in merely 4 days, Apollo grew strong and hungry for revenge. So he went straight away to Parnassus, where Python lived, and wounded the monster with his arrows. Python managed to escape and sheltered itself in Gaia's ancient sanctuary at Delphi. Apollo was so enraged that he dared to violate the sanctity of the site by staining it with Python's blood. Zeus ordered Apollo to cleanse himself, after which he returned to Delphi and claimed the shrine in his name. After these events, Delos and Delphi became sacred sites for the worship of Zeus, Leto, Artemis, and especially Apollo. The high priestess Pythia presided over the temple of Apollo at Delphi, serving as its enigmatic oracle. The day he was born, Hermes invented the lyre and stole Apollo's cattle. So as to appease his older brother, after he found out what had happened, Hermes offered Apollo his new invention. Ever since then, the lyre became one of Apollo's most famous attributes and its most celebrated master. However, Apollo's virtuosity would be challenged on at least 3 different occasions. The first to do such a thing was the least fortunate, the satyr Marsyas. He wasn't bad at all playing the allos, or the double flute, even equaling Apollo's skill. However, he ultimately lost the contest, since unlike Apollo, he couldn't sing while playing. As punishment, Marsyas was hanged inside a cave and was subsequently flayed alive. Fortunately for him, Apollo survived unscathed after challenging Apollo, and almost unanimously losing the contest. Midas, however, the only judge that deemed that Pan was the better player, got what he deserved, ass's ears, the donkey, since he obviously lacked human ears for music in the first place. Cinyarus, the king of Cyprus, and a great flute player, didn't learn anything from these two episodes. After losing his contest against Apollo, he was either killed by the god or committed suicide. Apollo was loved by both gods and human, men and women, and more often than not, he loved them back as well. However, as it often happens, the most famous of his love affairs are the ones that didn't end well. On 2 occasions, a mortal got the better of the god. Coronis was already pregnant with Apollo's son, Asclepius, when she fell in love with Aeschylus. A white crow informed Apollo of this affair, which enraged Apollo so much that he ordered Artemis to kill Coronis and burn the feathers of the crow. Crows have been black ever since. After a while, Apollo fell in love with Marpessa. Her lover, Idas, had already went through hell to get her, even risking his own life while abducting her. But he didn't back down even in front of Apollo, raising his bow and threatening him with an attack. Zeus stopped this fight and gave Marpessa the chance to choose. She chose Idas, since she feared Apollo would stop loving her after she grows old. In an attempt to seduce her, Apollo gave to Cassandra, the Trojan princess, the gift of prophecy. However, afterwards she backed out of the deal. Now, being a god, Apollo wasn't allowed to recall his gift, but he thought of a cunning idea to spoil it. He took away Cassandra's powers of persuasion. Ever since, no one believes her, even though her prophecies are always right. Apollo's most famous love interest was Daphne, a nymph who had once vowed to Artemis to remain eternally innocent. Apollo, however, fell for her and persistently stalked her until one day Daphne couldn't take it no more. She asked her father, the river god Peneus, to be transformed into something else. And just as Apollo was about to embrace her, she was turned into a laurel tree. The god swore to love her forevermore, and ever since he wears a laurel wreath as a token of his unhappy love. Both of Apollo's most beloved male lovers were transformed into plants as well. After Cyperseus accidentally killed his pet deer, which was gifted to him by Apollo, he asked his divine lover to let him be sorrowful forever. So Apollo unwillingly transformed Cyperseus into a cypress tree. The story of Hysenius, I am definitely pronouncing that wrong, is even sadder. He was the favorite of Apollo, and he dearly loved the god back. His mate Zephyrus, the west wind, a Hyacinthus, admired her himself, so jealous that when the pair was practicing in the field, he made his discus swerve back and mortally wound him on the head. However, Apollo didn't allow Hades to take all of Hyacinthus to his realm. Out of his spilled blood, the god created a flower which bears his lover's name to this day. Some common misconceptions and lesser-known facts often go unnoticed. One is the widespread myth that Apollo is the sun god, when in reality it is Helios who personifies the sun in Greek mythology. Apollo's association with the sun is a result to his connection to light and the Hellenistic synchronism that occurred later in history. Another intriguing yet often overlooked aspect of Apollo's mythology is his association with the Hyperboreans, a mythological race of people living in the distant utopian land in the far north. According to legend, Apollo would spend the winter months among the Hyperboreans, where he would revel in their idyllic society, filled with music, dance, and never-ending youth. This connection highlights the god's affinity for harmonious and balanced living, further emphasizing his role as a symbol of the Hellenistic ideal. Moreover, Apollo's strong ties to medicine and healing are not as widely recognized as his other attributes. In fact, the god was the father of Asclepius, god of medicine, and the healing arts were passed down through his lineage. The rod of Asclepius, a serpent-entwined staff, remains a symbol of medicine to this day, reflecting the lasting impact of Apollo's connection to the healing arts.